Okay, so let's talk about some policy differences between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Not that I believe a word that comes out of his mouth, but let's see what they have to say about things like childcare and other family costs. So, to the article. The high cost of caring for children and the elderly has forced women out of the workforce, devastating family finances, and left professional caretakers in low-wage jobs, all while slowing economic growth. That families are suffering is not up for debate. As the economy emerges as a theme in this presidential election, the Democratic and Republican candidates have sketched out ideas for easing costs that reveal their divergent views about family. On this topic, the two tickets have one main commonality. Both of the presidential candidates and their running mates have, at one point or another, backed an expanded child tax credit. Vice President Kamala Harris, who accepted the Democratic Party's nomination last week, has signaled that she plans to build on the ambitions of outgoing President Joe Biden's administration, which sought to pour billions in taxpayer dollars into making child care and home care for elderly and disabled adults more affordable. She has not etched any of those plans into a formal policy platform. But in a speech earlier this month, she said her vision included raising the child tax credit. Former President Donald Trump, the Republican, has declined to answer questions about how he would make childcare more affordable, even though it was an issue he tackled during his own administration. His running mate, Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio, has a long history of pushing policies that would encourage Americans to have families, floating ideas like giving parents votes for their children. This was around the time he did the childless cat lady thing, when that was brought back up from what he said, I think, a couple years ago. He also suggested that parents should have more votes than those without kids because he felt like this society didn't value families. I'm sorry, what? We wouldn't have a child tax credit if this country didn't value families. What is wrong with them? Anyway, let's see. Just this month, Vance said he wanted to raise the child tax credit to $5,000, but Vance has opposed government spending on childcare, arguing that many children benefit from having one parent at home as a caretaker. Okay, even if that's true, I'm not going to argue whether it's true or not, but whether it's true or not, the fact remains most people cannot afford to have only one parent working. In this economy, actually, it has been, I don't know when was the last time it was just second nature to have only one parent working. And then one parent could stay at home to raise the children. I don't know, maybe the 70s was the last time. It's been a while since most people could get away with. I'm not saying that it was never that two people had to work. I mean, poor people probably did have to do that. Actually, most likely did have to have both parents working. So, regardless of whether that's true, if people can't afford it, then the whole discussion is moot. That's great that it would be better for children to have one parent at home. How are they supposed to afford that? They can't. So why even bring that up? It's very interesting that he, you know, doesn't want to spend on childcare, but at the same time doesn't want to give families the ability to survive on just one income. How does he think that families are going to magically be able to afford having just one income? I mean, he claims to be from Appalachia and how what his life was like growing up. I'm sorry, if he's so understanding of how he grew up, he would know that, you know, you can't just have one person income. Anyway, the candidates' care agendas could figure prominently into their appeal to suburban women in swing states, a coveted demographic seen as a key to victory in November. It might help, but there's also that sticky issue of abortion. Women provide 2/3 of unpaid care work, valued at $1 trillion annually, and are disproportionately impacted when families can't find affordable care for their children or aging parents. And the cost of care is an urgent problem. Childcare prices are rising faster than inflation. All right, let's go to what Kamala Harris has in mind. When Harris addressed the Democratic National Convention, she talked first about her own experience with childcare. She was raised mostly by a single mother, Shyamla Gopalan. I hope I didn't butcher that too badly. Who worked long hours as a breast cancer researcher. Among the people who formed her family's support network was Mrs. Shelton, who ran the daycare below us and became a second mother. All the more reason why J.D. Vance's idea of, one parent should stay home is also ludicrous. Because if they go to childcare, and if it's a small enough childcare room, then it's like having more than one parent. What's the problem? As Vice President, Harris worked behind the scenes in Congress on Biden's proposals to establish national paid family leave, make pre-kindergarten universal, and invest billions in childcare so families wouldn't pay more than 7% of their income. She announced, too, the administration's actions to lower co-pays for families using federal child care vouchers and to raise wages for Medicaid-funded home health aides. Before that, her track record as a senator included pressing for greater labor rights for domestic workers, including nannies and home health aides who may be vulnerable to exploitation. All right. This month at a community college in North Carolina, Harris outlined her campaign's economic agenda, which includes raising the child tax credit to as much as $3,600 and giving families of newborns even more, $6,000 for the child's first year. That is a vital year of critical development of a child, and the costs can really add up, especially for young parents who need to buy diapers and clothes and a car seat and so much else, she told the audience. Her running mate selection of Tim Walz, who established paid leave and a child tax credit as governor of Minnesota, has also buoyed optimism among supporters. All right, so let's see what Donald Trump has to say on the issue. For voters grappling with the high cost of childcare, Trump has offered little in the way of solutions, which is ironic because Harris has to be careful not to step on the toes of Joe Biden when she puts forth her policies, because she's still the vice president. Trump doesn't have that problem. I mean, I realize that Project 2025 sucks, but they say right in the document that they want to put family first, so why not put forth the policy? Anyway, during the June presidential debate, CNN moderator Jake Tapper twice asked Trump of what he would do to lower child care costs. Both times he failed to answer, instead pivoting to other topics, which either means he forgot what his policy is or he didn't have one at the time. His campaign platform is similarly silent. Okay, so he doesn't have one. Cool. It does tackle the cost of long-term care for the elderly, writing that Republicans would support unpaid family caregivers through tax credits and reduced red tape. The silence marks a shift from his first campaign, when he pitched paid parental leave, though it was panned by critics because his proposal excluded fathers. Which, yeah, fathers are parents too. Just because they didn't give birth doesn't mean they don't have a stake in raising their kid. But, both Trump, neither Trump nor Vance had present fathers, so that's probably why they don't even think about them. When he reached the White House, the former president sought $1 billion for child care, plus a parental leave policy at the urging of his daughter and policy advisor Ivanka Trump, who is herself a young parent, so it makes sense that she would think about these things. Congress rejected both proposals. Of course they did. But Trump succeeded in doubling the child tax credit and establishing paid leave for federal employees. All right. I really wonder why Congress rejected the proposals. Because maybe I'm remembering wrong, but they held all three branches of government. I wonder what was in it that, yes, it excluded fathers, but at least it's something. So yeah, I'm really curious why that happened. In his 2019 State of the Union address, Trump said he was proud to be the first president to include in my budget a plan for nationwide paid family leave, so that every new parent has a chance to bond with their newborn child. Either at this point he included fathers, or he's just, I don't know. I'm confused, because there was criticism that it didn't include fathers, and now, I don't know. This year, there are signs that his administration might not pursue the same agenda, including his selection of Vance as a running mate. In 2021, before he joined the Senate, Vance co-authored an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal opposing a proposal to invest billions in child care to make it more affordable for families. He and his co-author said expanding child care subsidies would lead to unhappier, unhealthier children, and that having fewer mothers contributing to the economy might be a worthwhile trade-off. Again, not all families, actually most families cannot afford that. Even if that were true, which it's not, there are plenty of children of single mothers who are perfectly happy. Look at Obama. He was raised by a single mother. Kamala Harris, raised by a single mother. They don't look unhappy to me. Or unhealthy. So, not sure where he's coming from. All I can think of is that because of the broken home Vance came from, and how he was not, that made him bitter, that he assumes that all children end up like him. Now, the unhealthier part, that I'm unsure of. Is he trying to tell us something? He's already told us he was unhappy, but is he saying he was also unhealthy? Anyway, all right. Vance has floated policies that would make it easier for a family to live off a single income. Well, in that case, I mean, still, everyone should be able to have the choice of whether they want to work. But if he's going to give these families an opportunity to have a parent stay home, then yeah, I don't agree with you mandating it. But if there is that choice, then absolutely. Making it possible for some parents to stay home while their partners work. Along with his embrace of policies he calls pro-family, he has tagged people who do not have or want children as sociopaths. Yes, it's great that he's trying to make it easier for families to be that traditional family that one partner stays home. Obviously, I'm sure he would assume, like he mentioned, that the mother would stay home, which is not necessary anymore. It's entirely possible that it could be the father wants to stay home. But I'm sure J.D. Vance will find a way to mock that too. But yes, he did indeed. He mentioned that the people who are most argumentative on Twitter, not that they're incels, he claims that they are sociopaths because they are people who do not want or have children. Which, I'm sorry. You're seriously calling infertile people sociopaths. Wonderful. He once derided Harris and other rising Democratic stars as childless cat ladies, and everyone concentrates on the childless and ladies part and ignores the fact that he said this about Pete Buttigieg. So either he doesn't recognize gay men as being men, or he's just using that as a placeholder for, the derision he feels for people without children, which at the time, Pete Buttigieg did not. They were working on it. They were working on adopting children. But based on him talking about Harris, who at the time did have 2 kids, I'm going to say he has a very narrow view of what constitutes having children. And that is, if you don't have a biological kid of your own, you're not truly a parent. And so to that I say, okay, so people who choose to adopt, that they might have kids of their own, but they choose to adopt, those kids aren't really theirs. They're not really parents. The hell? Even though Harris has 2 stepchildren, they call her Mamala and no cats. Exactly, because, again, he probably thinks that... Now, I've said this before in my Childless Cat Lady here video. He probably thinks that phrase refers to anybody who doesn't have kids. Up until this, I have only heard it used for not just women who don't have kids, but women who aren't interested in partnering up. They don't want a partner, let alone not have kids. Okay. Seriously? Now we're turning it into anybody who doesn't have the family that Vance thinks everyone should have. I'm sorry, blended families exist. This is not 1960. This is a thing. Actually, probably was a thing in 1960, just not as prevalent. I fail to see why only parents who have biological children, that both parent is the biological parent of the child, why that somehow makes them better than other families. It literally makes no sense. These are, actually, I would say that we should look more kindly to people who have to go through all this work to have kids, because they truly choose to have kids. They truly want kids. Anybody can have sex and get someone pregnant. And if that person, just begrudgingly has the kid, they could potentially resent the kid because, they could have had this life or that life. I would rather look to parents who went through all this trouble to get a kid, because those people actually want a kid for the right reasons, not for, well, might as well go through this because I'm pregnant. I don't know what goes through the heads of people who begrudgingly have kids, because there are parents out there who, I swear, hate their kids. And it's not because of anything the kid did, just their existence. So, yeah. Even without details about new care policies, Trump believes that families would ultimately get a better deal under his administration. Of course he does. He also thinks that he would be better for women and reproductive rights under his administration. Even though he also brags about being the instigator for the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So, and that he thinks that the states should be the ones to tell women. So women, depending on what state they're in, could either be told that they're just walking incubators or be treated like human beings. So the fact that he thinks that they would get a better deal, I don't put much stock in that. The Trump-Vance campaign has attacked Harris's record on the economy and said the Biden administration's policies have only made things tougher for families, pointing to recent inflation. Okay. Inflation has been going down. We got into inflation because of the pandemic. That screwed everything up. And to make matters worse, because companies saw that inflation was going through the roof, they decided, hey, nobody will notice when we gouge them to death. So it was a combination. But inflation has gone down. It's, last I saw of the numbers, it was just under 3%. Are the prices still high? Absolutely. But you can't blame inflation anymore. It's more price gouging at this point. So, yeah. Harris has proudly and repeatedly celebrated her role as Joe Biden's co-pilot on Bidenomics, said Caroline Leavitt, a campaign spokeswoman. The basic necessities of food, gas, and housing are less affordable, unemployment is rising, and Kamala doesn't seem to care. Okay. Kamala doesn't seem to care. She's the vice president. She can't exactly step on Biden's toes and give her opinion on how Biden is performing. She's got a very, very tight rope to walk, because on the one hand, she has to put forth her own policies. On the other hand, she's still the vice president and is not supposed to upstage Joe Biden. So, now, as far as basic necessities, those prices have gone down. Unemployment is rising. That isn't the problem of anything that Biden and Harris have done. That is literally how capitalism works. In order for inflation to go down and for prices to go down, we need unemployment, which is a fucked up system. I mean, who thought of this? Oh, yes, inflation is on the rise. Let's raise interest rates to the point that people stop hiring or lay off people because they can't afford to keep them on. I mean, that is just a messed up system that our system requires unemployment. So unemployment rising is actually not a bug, but a feature of capitalism. So that you cannot put on Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. That is just the system we live in. So, and if we were in a system that made sure that unemployment didn't go up when inflation was going down, these same people would scream socialism or communism, because actually bringing a solution to the problem that you're whining about is bad, but the problem is bad. Yeah, makes sense. Alright, so with that is the end of the article. And with that, I will see you guys in the next video.